I wanted to talk about a very particular group of cards in the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot deck today. And I'm not here to sort of define. I rather wanted just to kind of discuss, share some thoughts, and maybe just bring your attention to certain details and reflect on what they could mean. And so today I wanted to look at all of the cards with horses. Now, we immediately, I think, when we think about horses, think about the four knights. And I absolutely think if you want to understand the knight, look at the horse. Because Pamela Colman Smith was just amazing at bringing the horses to light. And so we have the two masculine knights here, wands and swords. And of course, we're talking here about energy and psychology rather than biology. So we have fire and air. And I find it really fascinating that the masculine horses or the masculine knights going in one direction and the feminine elements, earth and water, are going in the other direction. If we were going to mark these knights for their speed, then personally, I think the Knight of Swords would have to come first. This is about thoughts and words, and arguably, when we think something, it is instantaneous. Speech is the first step of any journey to manifesting when we say something out loud, but we have to be careful with our words. We can say things that aren't based in evidence. We can say things in temper or passion that we didn't mean. This, to me, is the most fast-moving of the knights. And I've often seen the Knight of Swords referred to heading towards burnout. We only have to look at the poor horse who seems to be saying, please slow down. The horse cannot maintain that pace for very long. One of the problems with burnout is we keep thinking, I'll take a break when this job is done, and we don't really listen to the signs from our body. We just keep pushing. A similar energy, but different. And notice a really little, neat little detail here. With these two horses, we can't quite see all of the front feet. Whereas when we look at the two more feminine knights, okay, well, you could argue this has been cropped here, but we can see where the knight is yet to go. Whereas with these two, it's more a case of, I'm just going to go for it. And for me, that's definitely the biggest meaning of the Knight of Wands. I think of this as just jumping right in, led by instinct or passion. I'm just going to do it. And you have this sort of almost rearing horse. It's almost as if part of this knight is going, oh God, what am I doing? And the other half is going, well, I'm just going to go with it anyway. And so, we really can't see the front part of the horse's legs because nobody's quite sure what is coming. And for me, quite a warning duo would be the Knight of Wands and the Fool, because you have this idea of recklessness. I'm jumping in and I don't quite know what I'm doing. And of course, if you have a smaller spread and you have both of these cards, there's an intensity there. There's a speed and a lack of consideration that isn't always the best. If we're doing this based on speed, I think the Knight of Cups needs to come next. He's water. He's moving at his own chosen pace, which is what water does. But water always finds a way. If you've ever had a leak, you're going to know that. So to me, I think the Knight of Wands, and the fact that obviously we've got the one leg up, we're shown a horse in movement. And then the slowest of all the knights is going to be the Knight of Pentacles. Now, to me, the Knight of Cups is about following your heart. But that may not be about romance. That might be following a creative passion or moving somewhere that you've always wanted to move to. And then the Knight of Pentacles is going to be attention to detail, planning and preparation. Steady, loyal, but perhaps a little slow and stuck in a rut. One of the stories that I often tell about the knights is comparing these two. This is a true story that's in my book. I am very much Knight of Wands. I do tend to jump into things and then think afterwards, oh God, how am I going to manage this? My ex-husband was very much Knight of Pentacles. He was a case of preparation is the biggest part of any journey. So we each agreed, we had either 3 or 4 young children at the time, to paint a different room. My ex-husband was going to paint the lounge and I was going to paint the kitchen. I do remember going into the garage, finding some various odd paints, mixing them together to make a sort of a mushroomy colour. I'm going to be honest and say, yes, I did use a children's paintbrush. It was a thick one, but it was still a children's paintbrush. I definitely painted around the kitchen clock. When it came to shelves, I kind of just pulled things forward and painted behind to the best of my ability. I did do the job. I'm thinking back, I must have had 3 children because I remember being pregnant. I was pregnant, I did it in an afternoon, and it was good enough. My husband, on the other hand, I do remember him getting various, those little tester pots, trying the different colours, both in the light and in the shadier parts of the room. I know there was masking tape and dust sheets and edging brushes. He did a beautiful job, but it took months before it was finished. Now, the point here is not that one is better or worse, but it's to kind of get the difference of speed. And, there is no good or bad night. It's about sitting with the question and understanding. And in particular, if you're getting a night in a reading, I would be asking yourself, is it that you are perhaps too slow? Or are you being asked to slow down and pay attention to details? Do you need a bit more passion? Do you need a bit more gusto, a bit more spontaneity in your life? Or are you so spontaneous that you're not actually ever completing anything? Is it worth just pushing through right now? Is there a defined end date that you need to get to? Or have you been pushing past burnout for a very long time? Are you being asked to follow your heart? Or have you been following your heart for some time and you're not quite sure where you are or where you're going? So there's a good and a bad side for each of them. And then we have the other horsey cards, let's call them. The unique card is the Sun. Because the horse is really sort of turned more towards us. I know that you could say that some of the horses do seem to turn towards us, but I always feel with the Sun, it's more like he's about to walk right out of the picture and almost into our life. Perhaps the most unique horse, and the horse that I'm obsessed with, is the Six of Wands. Because when we look at the other horses, they have life. Even the dead horse. I am convinced that this is what I would call a mama's horse or a hobby horse, that this is a puppet. That this is, a false horse created for ceremony and pageant. It has no mane. We cannot see the body at all. And it just seems lifeless. And yet even the horse of death has life and movement. And so, yes, the Six of Wands can be success, victory, being recognized as successful. But I also see this as faked confidence, which can be a good thing. And also the price that can be paid for success, which I think is hidden under this puppet horse. The Death's horse has an awful lot of similarities to the Knight of Cups, including not only the colour, because of course we have other white horses, but the posture. I don't have a definitive reason for this. Maybe you do. And if you do, put it in the comments, because this is a space for us to share, learn, discuss, question, So if you have a definitive reason why these two horses are connected, do let me know. I tend to think that we have the angel's wings here on his helmet and on his feet. And to me, this can be like a message from the guides. The heart space can represent how we connect to the collective unconscious or spirit guides. So I've definitely seen the Knight of Cups represent as a spiritual message. And I don't see death as a bad thing. You know, death is a natural part of our life. It is it's connected to the non-physical world, I guess. And white is the colour of death because red is the colour of life with our blood pumping. And I often think with the Knight of Cups, it is connecting to that part of us, our soul, our emotional self, that I believe was in existence before we were born and will be in existence after we die. So that's, for me, that's the resonance between the two of these. Although we have a white horse here and here, I think the white horse for me in the Knight of Swords is a reminder that this is a non-physical action. The Knight of Wands can be sexual, it can be angry and passionate. It's to do with the colour of life and being human. And the Knight of Pentacles is the physical world. So these are the more sort of physical knights, if you like, whereas these can be the more non-physical. And we can link that then to the white lilies that we see perhaps on the Magician or the Ace of Pentacles being the non-physical world and the red rose being the physical world. And I do think of the horse in the sun as being a deeply spiritual animal, perhaps resonating with the white dog in the Fool. But what I would say is these are my reflections. They're not definitions of the meaning. If you have thoughts, share them. I would love to hear them. But most importantly, if you've done a tarot spread and you have more than one horse in your reading, don't overlook the horse. Pamela Coleman Smith painted such detail, such expression, animation into her horses. Sit and look at them and really understand the meaning.